welcome to this edition of The Isle with me, your host, Bianca Rahimi. Today we'll be talking about the various crises that seem to be plaguing the UK's royal family. It's been a harrowing few months for the monarchy, and the Queen is more than a little perturbed. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle deciding to step down as senior members of the royal family has caused quite a stir. It has made Britons question what is really going on in the royal family that was only recently hit by damning accusations against Prince Andrew, who has been linked to infamous paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Harry and Meghan plan to raise their son at a healthy distance from the pomp and pressure of royal life. They ushered in 2020 with an Instagram post that left the nation and apparently the Queen herself dumbfounded. Although the announcement was made on Instagram and without her blessing or forewarning, Her Majesty has managed to contain her chagrin. After an emergency meeting of the royals, this statement was released. But the Queen has also made it perfectly clear that if they wish to go it alone, without recourse to public funds and without the responsibility of public duties, they will most probably be stripped of their titles and will have to repay the £2.5 million it cost to refurbish Frog Cottage, that is their residence in the UK.
I imagine she must be absolutely boiling with rage on a couple of levels. First of all, there is no avoiding the fact that this is her grandson. In almost all of human civilization, the relationship between grandparents and grandchildren is one which is close and intimate. That her grandson has been forced to literally run away from his own country with his married spouse is something that must cause her enormous sadness and distress.
The Queen will be feeling very let down and very angry, probably more angry than she felt after Andrew's car crash interview last year.
Really?
I would have thought so, because look, the Epstein thing and Andrew has been going on for ages. This is a bombshell that's just dropped.
Harry and Meghan's union was hailed by many as symbolic, a testimony to a monarchy that for a fleeting while people thought was showing willingness to modernise and diversify. But the media coverage that followed the wedding left many feeling that Meghan, a biracial American divorcee, might not be the monarchy.
That some of this coverage is tinged with racism.
It doesn't mean it's racist. Sorry, it doesn't. Just because people of colour say it is, they've got to actually show me.
But it doesn't mean it's not racist.
Do you know what?
You're saying it's not.
I'll tell you why.
Tell me why. Explain to me why I'm wrong.
I'll tell you. So my first experience of racism was when I was 6 years old, right?
If you consider the royal family as a brand, these are both opportunities and threats. The opportunity was for the royal family to establish a new brand voice, a new brand identity, a brand identity that fit the times that we live in now. And unfortunately, for a number of pressures, it's declined to accept the challenge to step up to the plate and reinvent itself. So I think what's happened basically is that the royal family has sent an image of itself as a brand which is highly, highly resistant to change and will veer on the side of conservatism at every opportunity. And from my point of view, and given world circumstances as we live in today, I think it's a huge opportunity missed.
Racism is still, unfortunately, deep rooted in the British society and most of Western societies, especially in America. And now other groups are trying to exploit that, and mainly extremist right-wing movements. They are using this card now.
The coverage the Duchess of Sussex has received has been meticulously compared to that of the Duchess of Cambridge, and stark differences have emerged. Everything from her fondness for avocados to the way she cradled her baby bump were projected in a wholly different and negative way in British papers. In an interview with ITV, the Duchess of Sussex says she had been warned of this.
My friends were really happy because I was so happy, but my British friends said to me, I'm sure he's great, but you shouldn't do it because the British tabloids will destroy your life. And I very naively, I'm American, we don't have that there. What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not in tabloids. I didn't get it. So it's, yeah, it's been complicated.
Despite Meghan fans being accused of playing the race card, there have been some disconcerting instances that could indicate these sentiments exist. In 2019, the BBC published a story on a British neo-Nazi who called Prince Harry a race traitor and said he should be assassinated for marrying Meghan Markle. This man has now been sentenced to over 4 years in prison after pleading guilty to 2 counts of encouraging terrorism and 5 counts of possession of terrorist material, including the White Resistance Manual. For Meghan and Harry, whatever the root cause of their suffering, they want out.
I've said for a long time to H, that's what I call him.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just survive something, right? Like, that's not the point of life. You've got to thrive, you've got to feel happy, and I think I really tried to adopt this British sensibility of a stiff upper lip.
Meghan has thrown everything to their faces and said, no, I'm not going to be supported by the royal family. I'm not going to take the taxpayers' money. I am going to rely on my own way, my own work, my own money, and my own earning my own living, and I don't depend on anybody. I think that's very brave of her, and I think Prince Harry has suffered a great deal when he saw what happened to his mum.
Harry and Meghan have started a family. Their son Archie was born in May 2019, and Harry insists he will do everything to protect his family, and he refuses to play in the game that killed his mother, Diana, who was killed in a car crash being chased by reporters when he was just a boy.
The decision that I have made for my wife and I to step back is not one I made lightly. It was so many months of talks after so many years of challenges. And I know I haven't always gotten it right, but as far as this goes, there really was no other option. What I want to make clear is, we're not walking away. And we certainly aren't walking away from you. Our hope was to continue serving the Queen, the Commonwealth, and my military associations, but without public funding. Unfortunately, that wasn't possible. I've accepted this, knowing that it doesn't change who I am or how committed I am. But I hope that helps you understand what it had come to, that I would step my family back from all I have ever known, to take a step forward into what I hope can be a more peaceful life.
Well, from Harry's point of view, the rationale is very clear. Here's a man who watched his own mother hounded to her death by the media in very, very, very distressing circumstances. And many years later, he's now watching the prospect of his wife receiving the same kind of treatment. The media has been hysterically anti-Meghan. Many people in the public, in social media, have been hysterically anti-Meghan. And it's clear to him that if he's not careful, things are going to go the same way as his mother. I think perhaps the most distressing thing, and one of the great turning points in the story, was when on the birth of their child, a very popular, very well-known, high-profile British journalist tweeted a picture of a chimpanzee in a top hat being brought home. And that's when I'm quite certain that as a father, that would have broken his heart and sent alarm bells ringing that I need to take steps to secure and protect my family.
British media, without the royal family, I think they don't exist. Most of the tabloid press, most of the, the reporters who are using the royal family to make some gains will not survive if there is no story about Meghan or Harry or Prince Harry. Therefore, the story is still there. We are still reading the newspapers on daily basis. The media are talking about them. And the reason they decided to relocate completely from the United Kingdom, in my view, is because there is this negative attack.
Prince Harry inherited millions from his mother Diana, and Prince Charles is expected to continue doling out financial support. Meghan also has her own fortune from her career in television, but there are a lot of kinks to work out, and the issue of their security is high on the list of concerns. Certainly Canadians don't want to pay for it, and the Queen has made it very clear they are either in or out. Harry will lose his military titles and will no longer represent her.
Despite the media outcry, Prince Harry, sixth in line to the throne, stepping down should not be the monarchy's prime concern at the moment. Prince Andrew is back in the news because of his alleged association with paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
Some go so far as to say that the case of Prince Harry and Meghan is being used as a distraction from a criminal case that threatens to bring the royals back into the headlines with every new development. Prince Andrew's flight logs have been pored over and the pictures dug up.
Well, there are those in communications who feel that this is a classical diversionary tactic, so that if you throw up another story which is grabbing enormous traction and has apparently a fair amount of popular interest and support, people will forget about another story which is genuinely damaging to the royal brand. But if that was the case, it failed dramatically, because the moment Harry and Meghan are off the scene, off in Canada, today, for example, the headline from the Sun newspaper literally prints what is in effect a wanted poster, because Prince Andrew is not responding to overtures by the FBI to come to America and give evidence. So if that was a tactic, then it has spectacularly backfired. And it's probably worse for the fact that it's been kept under wraps for so long.
Prince Andrew is accused of sleeping with an underage girl, pimped out by billionaire financier Jeffrey Epstein, who died in prison under questionable circumstances in August 2019. Experts say it was homicide. And of course, everyone is speculating who would have the power to orchestrate that and why they would go to the trouble. Prince Andrew's accuser has described her ordeal in detail.
He knows what happened. I know what happened. And there's only one of us telling the truth. And I know that's me. I implore the people in the UK to stand up beside me, to help me fight this fight, to not accept this as being okay. This is not some sordid sex story. This is a story of being trafficked.
Prince Andrew's accuser has described her ordeal in detail. Prince Andrew has denied the accusations, and in what has been described as a car crash of an interview, he sought to clear his name. He says he broke off his relationship with Epstein and he never knew what he was up to, which turned out to be hosting high-profile people on a private island law enforcement had no access to and supplying them with groomed girls as young as 11 to sexually abuse. Prince Andrew was accused of lacking empathy for Epstein's victims in his Newsnight interview and failing to show regret over their friendship.
He demonstrated an almost bizarre lack of resonance with what is going on in the rest of the world around him. So this is a very, very bad time for him, and he needs to make a better fist of how he communicates his intentions and his behaviours.
Shortly after it was broadcast, the prince announced he was stepping back from royal duties for their foreseeable future because the Epstein scandal had become a major disruption to the royal family. At the time, he said he was willing to help any appropriate law enforcement agency. The Queen has relieved her favourite son of his duties, and organisations that used to work with him are avoiding him like the plague. But although he would no doubt like to disappear into the shadows for a while, the FBI investigation into Epstein's death and who might have been complicit in his sordid affairs is throwing Prince Andrew back into the spotlight again and again. Federal prosecutors and the FBI are trying to interview Prince Andrew without success. According to the U.S. Attorney for New York, he has not been forthcoming.
Let me say that the Southern District of New York and the FBI have contacted Prince Andrew's attorneys and requested to interview Prince Andrew. And to date, Prince Andrew has provided zero cooperation.
The prince has rubbished these claims though, saying he is angry and bewildered at the accusations, insisting he is willing to cooperate. How, in a time when presidents and Saudi crown princes are tweeting and WhatsApping in earnest, Prince Andrew seems to be in the dark over the FBI's attempts to contact him strike many as a feeble excuse. Empowered by the Me Too movement, more and more Epstein victims are coming forward.
Epstein took my sexual innocence in front of a wall of framed photographs of him shaking hands and smiling with celebrities and political leaders. I was only 15 years old.
Just his walls that were adorned with pictures of him and his powerful friends anymore. The media soon dug up pictures and footage implicating many high-profile people, Prince Andrew for one, and accused rapist Harvey Weinstein, seen here with Epstein's partner in crime at a party hosted by the prince. Footage of US President Donald Trump has also forced him to comment on his associations with the sex offender. But then in 2019, he backtracked on that.
Donald Trump knew the cameras were there. In the video, he makes a point to draw Epstein's attention to them. And the video captures Donald Trump and Epstein chatting while watching a group of women at the party dance. It's not an image that matches Trump's declaration that he was not a fan of Epstein's.
I had a falling out with him a long time ago. I don't think I've spoken to him for 15 years. I wasn't a fan.
The FBI says Epstein could not have operated the way he did without ample assistance. So it seems only a matter of time before more high-profile people are named. Whether heads will roll or not is a matter of grave concern. Locals living near Epstein's private Caribbean island say it was common knowledge what was going on there. Law enforcement has admitted they had no access to the island, and right now, the victims are not yet convinced the long arm of the law is long enough to name and shame.
Status, it's really simple. Status has its privileges. Although, in days of yore, it was said that noblesse oblige, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I think Prince Andrew is going to discover that the idea that status has its privileges only really flies in certain circles. When he's taken into the court of public opinion, he will discover that the public will apply the notion of noblesse oblige, meaning to whom much is given, a great deal is expected in terms of standards of behaviour.
The royal family is undoubtedly going through a crisis, the biggest since Diana's death in the 1990s. It seems the majority of young people think the monarchy is not good for the UK, and those who ardently support it are the older generation. Just 48% of those aged between 18 and 34 agree the monarchy is good for the UK, while 73% of those aged 55 think it is. 47% think the monarch should be reduced in size, while only 15% disagreed. 44% say it is unacceptable for Harry and Meghan to trade on their royal background for commercial gain, while only 27% said it was acceptable.
The truth is that the royal family is a long-lasting and hugely enduring institution. It is part of the spine of the United Kingdom. It's going to take more than one personal scandal within it for it to fold. However, it does pose a couple of huge questions. How will the brand evolve? Because the way it responds not only to the situation with Harry and Meghan's departure, but also with the impending crisis looming with the Andrew story, which is now going to receive the full oxygen of publicity, because remember, Harry and Meghan aren't here to be a distraction anymore. It will define how the royal family presents itself going forward as a brand.
The British monarchy has lost almost all of its real authority. The Queen neither writes nor necessarily agrees with the contents of the Queen's speech. This became even more evident when she allowed Boris Johnson to suspend Parliament for 4 weeks to prevent his Brexit plan from being challenged. Despite being the least politically assuming of any sovereign before her, she gave in to his request and read out the speech, solidifying her position as a ceremonial figure.